Hello YouTube. Today I want to talk to you about the company Wooting, along with their journey over the last 8 years. A few friends that came together with an idea and the talents, and today they're building some of the best gaming keyboards in the world. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you how with just 5 screws, you can take your Wooting 60HE and drop it into a full custom keyboard case like this. So, if you're ready, let's get into it.
To kick things off, we're going to need to go back to 2015. And we're going to start in the beautiful country of the Netherlands. 3 longtime gaming buddies that were just fed up and sick and tired with all the gaming products they could find. But the difference with these 3 friends, they all have a very particular set of skills that they can do something about it. So they did a lot of research. They talked to a lot of the gaming community and the keyboard community through Reddit and Geekhack. They listened to feedback and got opinions until they had their concept. And then they made the renders for the Wooting one and debuted it in October of that year. The renders pretty much finished out the year, but then following in early 2016, the Wooting one was announced with a Kickstarter to follow in May. When it finally wrapped up in June, they had raised over $145,000 towards their project. So after running a very successful Kickstarter in 2017, the team started their first production run. But unfortunately, by the end of this production run, they'd have to consider it a fail. But they did happen to learn a lot from this that they'd be able to benefit and bring another second production run. I want to make a quick little note, and I want to highlight the Wooting YouTube page along with their website, and I will have both linked in the description. But they have a lot of vlogs of the mass production along with a ton of information about their products and the journey, and I highly recommend watching their manufacturing vlogs because there's a ton of information about the whole process and you get to see a real interesting side of the whole thing. So if you watch those or if you look into their journey for very long, you're going to see the passion these guys have for their products and their customers. Failure wasn't going to be an option, so even though that first run was a failure, you knew their second run was going to be a success. So a few months later in May, they finished their second production run. This time everything went okay. So this brings us into August of 2017, which is a little over 2 years after the 3 had come together with their ideas. All the Wooting one orders were delivered. So the Wooting one had been a success, but like anything else with success comes the demand for more. And this time the public had spoken and they wanted a full-size version of the Wooting one, and so the team got to work. This is going to bring us into spring of 2018, the announcement of the wootingtwo. The wootingtwo is pretty much everything that the Wooting one is, except for it has the numpad and has a much narrower lip along the very top edge. So, of course, they decided to run another Kickstarter like for the Wooting one, and of course, again, it was very successful, raising over $145,000 yet again. So after running 2 successful Kickstarters, and the Wooting one was all delivered in the market for a little while, they started to receive a little bit of feedback about the limitations of the FlareTech switches that they were using. They had used this in the Wooting one and planned on using it in the wootingtwo. So after doing a little bit of research and fiddling around, this would be the beginning of what would become their lekker switch. Wrapping up 2018, the production run of the wootingtwo was completed, and they started deliveries in December with them all wrapping up in January. May 10th, 2019, the full range analog lekker switch is announced by Wooting on Twitter. A month later, June 5th, the wootingtwohe lekker edition was announced on pre-order with 1,000 units being available. This time coming in a special lekker colorway with a die sub PBT keycaps and of course the new lekker switches. And for any of my American listeners, if you ever end up in the Netherlands, lekker is a slang term in a bunch of different contexts. It's just kind of like us saying good, sweet, nice, great, kind of something like that. So if you're ever there, just a little knowledge. To finish up 2019, the team dropped the full size and a TKL silicone wrist rest in a few different rotational colorways. By summer of 2020, all the lekker edition pre-orders had sold out, and it was time to put the lekker switches in the original black wootingtwo. So in October of 2020, the wootingtwohe was made available for pre-order. The 2HE of course featured the lekker switches, but also returned to the black ABS and aluminum case along with the ABS keycaps like in previous models. February 2021, the Lekker edition mass production run is finally completed, and then focus turns to getting the HE mass production rolling. Original plans were to begin the first production with the HEs early in July, but after some minor adjustments to the plate fitment, it was delayed slightly, but they still managed to finish up production by the end of July. I know I mentioned about the vlogs earlier, but if you like reading about keyboard stuff, I do want to mention the blogs on Wooting's website because it's really an interesting read about their journey and what honestly inspired me to make this video. And this leads us to the Wooting 60HE, their attempt at the 60% gaming keyboard space, and it's made a big splash since it's been on the market, and to be honest, it's probably what brought you to this video. It was the first product from Wooting I was able to get my hands on, so I completely understand. Wooting announced the 60HE's founder campaign on October 7th of 2021 with a funding goal of 75,000 euros or 80k to my fellow American viewers, along with a message saying if they wouldn't reach their goal, they would refund everyone's pledge and reflect. Yeah, the 80k was raised in under 8 hours. By October 21st, over $133,000 had been reached, and Wooting announced they'd be changing the USB-C cable from a plain black to a black and yellow to celebrate reaching their 125k euro goal. And when the campaign was all said and done with on November 6th, they had raised over $286,000 for their founders campaign. And I do want to highlight something that I thought was a really classy move on Wooting's part. They let each of the founders submit an image that they would put on the front of the PCB, along with either a name or a nickname that they would put all over the box. It's just a really classy move to show appreciation for the people who supported you. Production of the 60HE started shortly after, but they did run into a few issues with materials and future updates coming into play, but mostly seemed to be issues with shortages that we felt all over the world in a huge number of different materials, so it was kind of par for the course at the time. By June of 2022, that first round of production was completed and began to ship, and they continue to produce the 60HE in a variety of NA and EU batches that are still available for purchase at the time of recording this in July of 2023. Earlier this year in February, Wooting announced they are ready to begin producing the wootingtwohe in their new ARM configuration. For anyone not familiar with ARM, is referring to the microcontroller that is used in the keyboard. Previous versions used AVR, which was 8-bit, but the new ARM versions offer a 32-bit. And this brings us to the latest public project from Wooting. They love to listen to their community, and one particular game's player base had been breaking world records with the 60HE when pros were getting their hands on it. That game is Osu. The highly intense and fast reflex gameplay is a perfect fit for the Lekker switches. With the community loving the 60HE so much, the team decided to make an Osu player-inspired gamepad. The wootinguwu was announced earlier this year with a campaign following in April, ending in May, and raising over $500,000 this time. To think this all started with just a couple friends that, they really had a passion. They wanted to find the absolute fastest keyboard, and they couldn't. And so they came together and they came up with a concept and made it a reality and traveled to Taiwan and searched for these factories, and just that whole process and that approach. There's just something about that since the first time I heard about it that I've just wanted to support and be a part of. They built a keyboard around the best switches they could find, and then they soon realized that they were going to need to build their own switches if they wanted something better. And they put in the time, they put in the research, they found the switch design that worked, and they made it work, they made it happen. I jumped on board late to their journey. I got a 60HE, and I've loved it ever since I got it, and I wanted to see if it was just hype, and it's definitely not. It's everything that people say it is and more. And the gaming keyboard space is going to be evolving. If these guys keep doing what they've done, it's just going to keep getting better and better and better because they listen to the community and they just make an amazing product. I want to wrap things up with talking about the way they designed the 60HE so that you can take out 6 screws and you can remove the PCB and drop it into a long list of 60% cases. And that's just unheard of. Being able to take one of the fastest gaming keyboards you can buy and place it into a custom case is just a game-changing feature to me. I'm someone who really enjoys custom mechanical keyboards, so giving that option, that experience to have a custom gaming keyboard with the top gaming features, it's just amazing. The hot swap PCBs, so you can easily pull your switches and lube them or replace them if you have one of them that goes bad. Just the way that every area they look and had the consumer in mind and trying to give them options. It's just, I'm a huge fan, and I hope after viewing this, you are too, and you look into them a little bit more.
All right, I just want to wrap things up and say thank you for stopping by. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a thumbs up. And if you have any requests for maybe a company or a keyboard you'd like to see in the future, please consider leaving it down in the comments. And again, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.